All right, good evening everybody. David McCoy, Ochimo Properties, Real Estate Matters. So we've actually done a lot of videos now. We've done, I think, 31 videos so far. We've been lately talking about investor questions, and we are continuing the investors. I don't know, this could be the last one. I don't know. I need to kind of go back and think about it a little bit. But tonight I thought we would talk about something that has become very common in the last less than 10 years, really, probably 5 years, and that's Airbnb. So I'm sure everybody knows what Airbnb is. I don't know if you've tried it or not. I've stayed in Airbnbs a number of times, and almost every time has been wonderful. So if you're not familiar with Airbnb, can't believe you're not, but if you're not, in general, what that is that individuals can have guests, and the person may, and it's sort of like being a small-time hoteler. So it could be in your own apartment or your own house or condo. It may just be a room. It may be a whole apartment. It could be all kinds of things like that. And so people have been doing that, and instead of staying in a hotel, they stay in one of these, and it's very much like being in a bed and breakfast. So this has been going on now for a while, and Airbnb has expanded tremendously, and people are doing it really all over the world now. And with that, when it was kind of a small deal, you know, nobody was really paying much attention to it, I guess, but as it gets larger and larger, a bigger and bigger phenomenon, now it's drawing really quite a bit of attention. I think more and more people are using it. I you know, think that, well, we'll get more into that in a little bit, but, you know, now that it's a bigger thing, we're having things like, you know, the cities and the states and, you know, the countries are grappling with what kind of regulation they should have, and also grappling, frankly, with taxes. You know, a lot of cities will have sort of hotel taxes. So, you know, I think, you know, when we stay in hotels, lots of times we have a rate, and then we get at the bottom and there's like a big tax thrown on the bottom of it, and it's like, what's that? And it's like, it's a hospitality tax that our city requires us to have on visitors. Well, at least at first, that wasn't applying to people at Airbnb. And now I'd say it depends. It depends upon the city, depends upon the state, depends upon the country. But there's, you know, a lot of them are thinking that they're missing out on this potential source of revenue. And there are other people who are actually in the hotel business who feel like it's unfair competition. But I don't know. So this has been around a while, and now it's starting to have some questions. And from the real estate perspective, you know, people are buying places to use for Airbnb. They're renovating places, and it's been an interesting phenomenon. One of the things that has been curious, and I'm going to use an example of Jamaica. I've mentioned in a previous video, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I work as a volunteer with the National Association of Realtors Global Department. And I am currently, as I do this video, the global ambassador to Bahamas, Bermuda, Dominican Republic, and Jamaica. And I have been working with Jamaica now. I believe this is my 6th year. It might be my 7th year, but I think it's my 6th year. And so I know those guys very well. And when I first started going down there, Airbnb had not yet come to Jamaica. But it is there now, and it was a, they were concerned. They were concerned when Airbnb started coming to Jamaica. They weren't sure what that would mean. They were a little bit afraid of, and this is something that a lot of people have been concerned about, is, you know, well, what about places where there's like gated communities and things like that? I mean, those people may not want strangers coming in and out of their their communities like that? And what about the amenities of the neighborhood? What if it has like a pool or playground or tennis courts or, really any of those kinds of things? What does that mean for those people? Are they going to be using those as well? I mean, because the residents of the neighborhood are paying for that, and they're not sure that it's really fair for them to be, losing that time to strangers who are just staying for a night or two. And there's also, I think, especially in some of these nicer communities, a concern about security. It's like, we don't really know who these people are, and we didn't really have any way to vet them. You assume that the owner vetted them in some way, but you don't know that. So there have been a lot of concerns about that. There were also concerns about what it might do to the real estate market in Jamaica. Excuse me. Well, some very surprising things happened when they did that. One, people started coming in and buying up condos and things for Airbnb units. So the demand for real estate actually increased. And it certainly was not the only factor. Jamaica actually right now is doing very well. The best they've been doing in a long, long time. And they have a lot of new construction and a lot of new things going on. And some of that new construction is condo buildings that are largely being used for Airbnb. So in terms of the real estate, it's been a little bit of a surprise. It's been a stimulus for their real estate market. The other thing is when they started doing the Airbnb, people were interested in places that they didn't expect. There is a town in Jamaica, they call it Trenchtown. And Trenchtown is a very, it's a very poor area, had a very high crime. It was kind of the place that people tended to avoid. But it also happened to be a place where Bob Marley lived for a while. And Bob Marley spent, I don't know what part of his life, I think it was kind of his older childhood and younger adulthood in this part of Jamaica, in Trenchtown. And they did not expect that at all, because Trenchtown was a very poor area and had high crime, and they never dreamed, it's not on the beaches or anything else, they never dreamed that people would be interested in seeing that. But people started buying up places there for Airbnbs in Trenchtown. And it has completely changed Trenchtown. It's amazing. I mean, so, whereas before it was, they had very high crime, now they have almost no reported crime, almost none. And it's a matter of, I guess, it's possible that there's some crime going on and they don't want to report it because they don't want, people to feel unsafe there. But I think a lot of it is as they started spending money on these Airbnbs and fixing them up, well, then people were coming, tourists were coming, and so that allowed some people to maybe have some businesses, maybe some restaurants or some souvenir shops, and they were coming to see stuff about Bob Marley, so there was like some tourism business, and they really started to do much better. And so the neighbors, the people who lived there had a vested interest in trying to keep the place nice and trying to keep crime down. And so I think a lot of it was just that they began policing the place themselves. Now, I'm not going to claim that that's going to happen everywhere, but there were a couple of surprises there. One, the market was able to better determine where people might go than what the government did. And now Jamaica, this is not a knock on the government of Jamaica. The government of Jamaica is really, they work very hard. Their current elected representatives, I've had the pleasure of meeting some of them. They're very dedicated, very smart, very good people. And they really work hard at that. But they had some assumptions, which I think any of us would have made. People won't go there It's not, you know, it's a high crime area, and it was overlooked. And the market, you know, said, no, people will want to go there. So that's one of the things is the Airbnb, I'm not going to be one who claims that Airbnb should be completely without regulation. And the issue of the taxes, I think it depends. I don't think that you want to make it so onerous that the small operators can't operate, because that's another one of the big advantages of the Airbnb. And that's one of the things in particular in places like Jamaica that they really liked. It's like the people who are buying these and setting up these Airbnbs, by and large, they're almost all Jamaicans. It's not an international corporation or, you know, investors from another country. Not that they mind investment from other countries, because they encourage it and they love it and they appreciate it. But it really is, you know, speaks to them that this revenue is being earned by their own countrymen, and it's being spent in their country. It's not being taken by a corporation to a corporate headquarters in another country and being spent there. So it has this really nice effect of the other thing about Airbnb, and this is just from a completely economic point of view, is those kinds of things are really, it's a very flexible way to increase capacity for tourism. If you decided that you needed, the tourism industry needed another, whatever it might be, 500,000 rooms or something like that, to build a new hotel, that can take quite a while. And it should take a while. I'm not trying to say it shouldn't, because, that it's a big project. You want to make sure all the permits are right and the safety is right and everything else. But that could take quite a while, whereas the Airbnbs could adapt and to that demand pretty quickly. So it's a way that it's I guess I'll call it sort of a buffer space for demand for the regular hospitality industries. And so it has a lot of good functions. There's some concerns too, I know that. And we kind of talked about that, the privacy, security, taxation, those kinds of things. Those are things that have to be worked out. But overall, it's a good thing, I think. And so, for an investor, it's one of those things that an investor can do. And, there are very few people that have enough money to be able to go out and build, a hotel of any size. Whether it's even, 100 rooms or 50 rooms. I mean, that's beyond most of us, because that could take a lot of money and debt and everything else and time, and it could just, it could be beyond us. But the Airbnb makes that possible for people that otherwise couldn't do it. And we're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing it where people are becoming small hotelers. I was in Chicago for a conference a couple of years ago, and the place that I was in was a 4-level building that the people had bought, and they turned it into 4 Airbnb apartments. And so they had a couple of them. I didn't meet the people in person, but we talked and exchanged emails and stuff, and they had a few of them, and they were trying to do more. And that was one of the things. It was a nice thing for them, and it was something that they could do, and something that they could grow. So I think the Airbnb thing, as you can tell, I'm very positive on it, and I think it can be a good way to invest in real estate. If you want to do that kind of thing and you can buy and fix up, they're not always projects you have to fix up. But I think the ones that I've been in have typically been people where they have bought something that needed some work, and then they fixed it up, and then they turned it into an Airbnb. And of course, you do have to, you have all kinds of things to do. You have guests coming, and so you have to have it cleaned, and you have to provide linens and sheets, and when somebody checks out, you have to clean the rooms and get it ready for the next thing and check people in and out, which all can be done. But the other side of that is that as the Airbnb industry has grown, there are also some companies that do that for you. Here locally in my town, Louisville, Kentucky, I met a guy. He was actually looking for some office space, and that's his business. There's enough Airbnbs here in town that what his business does is he contracts with the owners of the Airbnbs, and when people check out, his company goes over, they clean the whole apartment, they change all the sheets, they take care of all the stuff that needs to be done so that the next person can come in. And so this is I think kind of a growing industry, and so that's one other way that you might invest in real estate. So I think I ran a little longer than I expected to on that, but I think it's an interesting topic. If you have more questions about that, there's actually a gentleman, and I don't have his contact information with me right now. He is a professor at a Canadian university, and he has done this amazing, you can't believe, amazing analysis of Airbnb. I think he has something like 1 billion data points. It's crazy. And if that's something you're interested in, let me know, and I'll see if I can look it up and see if I can find a link for it so that you can take a look at it and see. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll call it good for tonight, and I still have, I don't know if I mentioned this on here, but I've been doing 50 days of video, and so right now I'm at, I think I'm at 31 or 32, no, I'm more than that, I think I'm at 33, and so we are, we're almost two-thirds, we're more than two-thirds of the way through. We're about three-quarters of the way through. And we'll be wrapping this up here in a couple of weeks, I guess. So anyway, if you have ideas, topics, questions about topics that I've covered so far, let me know. Love to hear from you. Love the comments, love the feedback. If you like this video, please click like. If you know someone who might want to see this video, please click share. And also, if you want to see some of these in the future, please click subscribe. And I will see you next time. Have a good evening. Take care. Bye.